Alright, so here we are back to the second part of my 3v3 battle. As you can see, my troops are routing off the battlefield. I was wasted. If you missed that, please go back to part 1 and watch me get owned by my British opponent. My terrible strategies and micromanagement absolutely got me killed. So the only player left on our team is the Don Part 2, and he is in control of this Austrian army. And he now has to face down 3 different players. I am completely dead, my other teammate's completely dead, so it is just the Don Part 2 versus the remnants of Russia, Britain, and Prussia. So he has 3 human opponents left. And here he routed a bunch of Russian troops here, and he's trying to chase them off the field so that they don't come back. But he's going to have to retreat his troops back to the safety and numbers of the remainder of his army. And he is playing as Austria. Let's see what he has left. I can see 3 different units of Grenzers here, and quite a few units of Hungarian Fusilier. It looks like 4 or 5 units here. Yeah, 5 units. And he's trying to chase down these last 3 remaining Russian units in the area, and there is a musketeer, musketeer. So it's all musketeers here. And he's going to try and do a quick knockout blow on the Russian player so that he no longer has to worry about these Russian troops being behind his line. So let's watch that. Here he is lining up with his Grenzers. He got a few shots off. But the Russian is of course running away because he wants to force the Don Part 2 to have to face his 2 teammates so that he can come back and interrupt him from behind. And not wanting to have to fight off several flanks, you're going to see the Don Part 2 start running towards the edge of the map so that he can protect his flanks. Now some of you might be saying, oh, he has no chance of winning, he shouldn't be running away like that. He does have a very real chance of winning if you look at the troops that are left. Now Britain has quite a few units left, but as you'll notice, I dealt some pretty heavy damage to all of them, or at least most all of them. He's got half strength at best in his units, except for this one, which is a unit of foot with nearly all of its men. So Britain is pretty well beat up. The Prussian units, some of them are in decent shape, and some are quite beaten up as well. So it's really, the Don Part 2 does have a very real chance of winning this battle, although he is outnumbered. So here he is lining up. He's got some Grenzers out here on the flanks, trashing this Russian unit of musketeers. And Grenzers are pretty excellent light infantry, for the most part. They were good light infantry in Napoleon, or in Empire Total War also, if used properly. So at this point, the Russian player, Hayden, is basically just trying to use his troops to buy his counterparts some time, so that's why he's rushing them in like this. They're pretty much worthless at this point, except for running disruption. And his troops that were behind the Austrian line, it looks like the Don Part 2 is able to rout them. So now the Don Part 2 has one solid line to present to the enemy, and he is not going to move forward, and he's going to make his opponents march to him so that he can get the first shot off. Now the only good thing that I did with the British Lightfoot is I probably did make these guys waste most all, if not all of their ammo, so they shouldn't have too much ammo left to use on the Don. Otherwise, I didn't do the Don a whole lot of good, other than just causing some casualties. And so the troops that Austria has left are the best line infantry that Austria has to offer. It's the Hungarian Fusilier, other than their elite units, which he does have a couple of elite units. One of the units he has on the field is the Czech regiment, and they are, I'm not sure exactly where they're at. Yeah, they're somewhere here. Anyway, he's spreading out his lines as thin and long as possible so that he can deliver the most volleys to his opponents. And you can see here he's actually going to go in and outflank the Prussian. And my Prussian opponent at this point, or his Prussian opponent, was quite angry with the way the battle was going. And as you can see, there's already enemy units routing out because the Don Part 2 lined up his units well, and he got the first volley of musket fire. And these already damaged units then became extremely weak. So you can see that the British player is absolutely getting pounded by the Don. And he was trying to rush some foot units in here on these Grenzers, but intelligently Don kept his Grenzers in skirmish, which basically kept these men running around and just kept them getting tired. Unfortunately, they are going to catch his Czech regiment here, but his Grenzers are going to be able to shoot them in the back at this point. So the Don is facing some trouble in this flank, but you can see that the bulk of the British forces are routing now, and their morale is breaking. Also, the fight is not going well for the Prussians, who are getting beat up quite badly. And like I said, the player in control of the Prussians was pretty upset at this point as well. Not upset in like a bad way that he was being a bad sport. You know, it's just everybody gets upset, you know, when you want to win the battle and things don't quite go your way. Just like I did earlier when I got my butt kicked. So anyway, what looked like a hopeless battle for my team has now actually turned into our favor. And you can see the balance here. I was on the red team, and the red team actually has the balance of power at this point. And there is actually a couple of Russian units that must have come back from routing, and they are just now getting into the fight. And although the fight is still fairly close, but the Don is doing an excellent job of controlling his troops, and like I said, keeping them in a good position to lay down fire. And some of the British troops regrouped, and here he's hitting them from the flank. Very good, and it also caused a rout here, and then this unit routed as well. This is Archduke Charles Legion. This is an elite unit. Very, very good unit of line infantry. So without being guards, the Archduke Charles Legion is a very good unit. So I thought this was a pretty amazing battle overall. I hope you've enjoyed it. I know that maybe my footage of it was a little bit unorganized, perhaps. I don't know, not really. I tried to show you my part of the battle, and I hope you learned from my mistakes there. I make a lot of mistakes in Napoleon Total War, and this battle was an excellent example of some of the mistakes that I use. I don't think up the proper strategies for the battles before I go in, as well as I do in a game like Rome Total War or even Empire Total War. Napoleon is just, for some reason, harder for me to strategize on. It's not something that I take to as easily as those other games. But, you know, I have my moments on Napoleon where I do well also. Like you saw that 4v4 battle I posted. That one went well for me. So let's watch the Don Part 2 finish this battle off. And as you remember, I just posted an Empire Total War battle. And I honestly think that the units and stuff look more realistic in Empire Total War, and I kind of think the graphics in general are better. It's just that the smoke effects, the sound effects, and some of the gameplay, I think, I say gameplay, certain aspects of the gameplay in Napoleon Total War are better. And some of you have pointed out to me the reloading speeds that I thought were previously inaccurate, and you pointed out that actually the muskets in this era could be reloaded 3 to 4 times a minute. So that actually does make the reloading speed feasible. So I think I'll back off that argument a little bit. Maybe it's just in my mind I really like the gameplay of Empire Total War better. But again, I do like Napoleon Total War very much. Yeah, so the Austrians totally have the advantage at this point, and most of the enemy units are routing off the field. Well, I say the Austrians totally have the advantage. Not according to the balance of power here, but in reality, the Austrians have the advantage. Let's see here some of the final charges of the game. These Hungarian Fusiliers going in for the bayonet charge, old school. So they charge into these Moscow Musketeers, who quickly rout under the charge. When you have an enemy unit bayonet charging you, and your men aren't about to fire a volley, you should charge back, because you know, you get the charge bonus. So it's something you should do. And here these Russian troops are quickly losing their morale as well. Some cool fighting going on here. And they rout. Here's a unit of Prussian light infantry that routs. And over here we have a foot guard unit of Prussians who is holding out against these 2 units of Hungarian Fusiliers, but their morale is wavering as well due to the overwhelming losses in their army. So even foot guards will waver in bad situations, and there they break and rout, and that is the end of the battle. So even though my other teammate and myself did not fare so well against our opponents, my hat goes off to the Don Part 2, He fought amazingly in that battle, and you can see that he got a large number of kills, but then again, so did my opponent. The opponent that was directly across from me also got a large number of kills, and that's because he just absolutely annihilated me, and then also got kills from the other, I guess, my teammates. Good game to all who were involved. I hope you learned something from this. I hope you learned something from my failed strategies there, and for those of you who are saying that you'd like to see a battle, where I didn't do so well, there you go. I didn't do so well. So anyway, like I said, I hope you enjoyed that. For anybody who's interested, here's the unit statistics. You can see my Jaegers were worthless, absolutely worthless. So in this case, don't do what Heir of Carthage did. Do what the Don Part 2 did. He was the good player in that battle.